Hello everyone, Nucleus here, and I'm back for another PC build video. So this PC build is going to be for my cousin. This is not actually a gift; he's a client. So kind of break down the parts what we have here. So our motherboard is a Pro X870p Wi-Fi from MSI. We're gonna give him a 990 Evo Plus 1TB SSD for the boot drive, and a 2TB Western Digital Black for the game drive, and simply for backup, more of a backup storage solution. He's also getting a Western Digital 2TB blue hard drive. Our CPU is going to be the 9800 X3D for gaming. He's basically getting into decided he's going to get into streaming as well, and the 9800 X3D is a good, solid. Actually, I shouldn't say solid, excellent CPU for gaming. And after months of watching and watching prices, and also having to suffer through the GPU shortage, we are pairing the CPU with a RX 970, not 980. Those are still a rumor. RX 9070 Swift from XFX. These are 16GB cards. Decided he doesn't necessarily need the XT. This should give him plenty of performance with regards to gaming, and especially since he wants to focus on VR. I thought that this was not necessarily a budget card, but I guess you could say it's kind of a budget card for its class. So for cooling, we have 4 Noctua fans. They are the NF-12, I believe that is what they are. Yes, the NF-12 fans from Noctua. I believe these are black and not the typical Noctua khaki and brown color scheme. For memory, we have two 32GB kits of DDR5 at 6,000 mega transfers per second. To power this rig, we have the MAG A850GL, which is a 850 watt power supply from MSI. So I went with kind of a budget option, and this is kind of my first time using them, but for the CPU cooler, we have the Liquid Freezer 3 360 from this Arctic. Yeah, Arctic. And of course, we're going to have Windows 11 Home, so that should be simple enough for him to use, because he just finished his A+ certification. So Windows 11 should be sufficient for him to use. Plus, it's home, so he's not going to be doing anything really crazy. And I'm still myself working on trying to figure out Linux. So for the case, we have this is the C9 from Antec. This is basically a dual chamber case, like one of many dual chamber cases, but this is from Antec, and this has the wood paneling, which is going to be here on the front of the case. I believe they used walnut for that wood panel, and then we have the Apex 7 mechanical keyboard from SteelSeries, and the Rival 5 from also from SteelSeries. So the Apex, this version of the Apex 7 is actually the upgraded version of my Apex 7. If you might have seen that in past videos, having kind of intruded into to some of the video shots of previous builds, previous build videos before. But that version that I have is a membrane keyboard, while this is mechanical. So, and that's it for the parts for this system. So we're going to take it to the build process and provide you with some music while we do it. So I'll see you at the build during the build, or you won't see me during the build. And now the build is done. So kind of a few things, as an afterthought when doing this build. So when I kind of came up with the idea for it, I went with the dual chamber design is kind of popularized by the Leon Lee's 011 Dynamic. This is the as a reminder, this is the Constellation or the C8 from Antec. And so it has that, at least with this one, it has that wood panel right there. It's a walnut. And when I kind of was conceptualizing the build, it was important to kind of get a unified color scheme for it. I was going to go with non-RGB, but I already had the RAM. I believe it was not Trident. This DDR5 from Team Group on hand. Because initially there was going to be no RGB in there. It's still kind of minimal. I believe the Swift, I think only the XFX logo, and no, the Radeon logo isn't. But I believe the XFX logo, it lights up. I don't think it's RGB. But anyway, but I did have the different set of NF-12 fans, the usual color scheme from Noctua, which is the brown and the khaki or beige. But I got these in black, and the silicone, the vibrational pad, anti-vibration pads for the fans, still kind of goes with it still kind of goes somewhat with the walnut wood paneling. So that's kind of why I went with these particular fans from Antec. Plus, their Antec makes some really high quality fans, so that was the other reason for that. So that's kind of the simple explanation for much of what, certain design choices kind of go for. Arctic. Another thing was also when it came to the Arctic 360 cooler here, it did not come with instructions, and there's a QR code on the box that will take you to the instructions at Arctic's website. But they also have on their official YouTube channel a quick video showing how to do the installation for this as well. It's pretty simple. Non-painless. And I also went with because they do have two different cables. This here is cable will control all three fans, because as you can see, they are linked by one cable. And that will hook back into I don't know. Can't forget. Actually, no. Anyway. But so all three fans are linked. Actually, I think this does. I can't remember now. But anyway, so there is this one cable that links everything all together. So everything is controlled all at once. There is a separate cable that has a simple connection to the pump block here, and it goes to all three headers on the motherboard, so you can control the fans and the pump individually. I kind of went with all of them just being controlled all at once, as opposed to being controlled separately. That was just for the ease of use for my cousins. So everything is all controlled all together. I don't think he's going to be doing any overclocking, so he wouldn't necessarily need to have fine control over fan speeds and the speed of the pump. Anyway, so this is that kind of set it up, so it's all pretty simple with regards to keeping everything cool. And I only went with, and I didn't decided against putting fans in the bottom. Still, same reason. I don't think he needs the extra airflow because he's definitely not going to be doing any overclocking. And then as you can see, I have the fans here in the side panel set for intake as opposed to exhaust. This fan here, of course, is your exhaust, and same thing for the fans here on the cooler, on the radiator. They're set to exhaust out the top of the case. And so now, one thing I didn't mention at the start of the video is the inclusion of the Hydronaut. So I didn't use, so if you saw, as you'll see on the build, I didn't use the Hydronaut paste, and I instead used the paste that was included with the Arctic cooler. And this is simply more for him, because depending on how hard he's going to be gaming, we already know he's probably not going to be overclocking, but he should be able, or he should get comfortable with changing the thermal paste for the cooler. And depending on your use case, or especially if you're overclocking, you need to change your paste out maybe once a year, if that, depending on what your use case is. And so I went with the high performance Hydronaut specifically because it is meant for liquid coolers as opposed to the Aeronaut. So, but that's going to be it for this build. So I'm going to do a Windows installation and then contact my cousin so he can pick this up. But working in the C8, it's been no different. This is my third dual chamber or fish tank style case. I've done 2 with the O11 dynamic. This is my first case from Antec in about 10 years. So yeah, this style of case has been pretty popular. So, but yeah, this was a lot. Actually, to be honest, this was a lot easier to work inside of than the O11 dynamic because of that door for the for your cabling that's meant to hide your cabling. No one's really going to see it. It's kind of, in my opinion, a waste of material to include it in the O11 dynamic, or the ones that I've been using with the O11 dynamic Evo. But if you kind of paid attention, and I didn't mention it in this, I believe the Gamers Nexus might have done a review in this case, is that there is a separate metallic wall on the back that is meant to be as kind of an air guide for when you have your fans set up in this configuration. Whether probably best if you have it set up as an intake in this configuration, but that little wall is removable, and I ain't seen really any need to remove it, but it will. I think it definitely will help with guiding air. Actually, it probably is. If I had these set to an exhaust, depending on where the case is placed, it probably would have helped for exhaust. But I think it'll help for the intake as well. Just depends on what his desk setup is going to be like. But regardless, this was a fairly standard build. I mean, like I said, because I've built in a few cases, mainly the O11 dynamic in this particular style, so there was really no big surprises or anything like that. So, but that's it for this video. Please comment, like, and subscribe. Check out my gaming channel over on Rumble. This is summer fight season, and I've been putting a lot of fighting game and beat 'em up gameplay over on that channel for the summer. Come August, you'll start to see the Resident Evil gameplay come back into the fold as well. So, but yeah, and then follow me on my Facebook, because I've been putting a lot of gameplay footage, mainly for indie games, indie game demos, over onto the Facebook page. So I will have all the links to those in the description. So without further ado, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.